Okay, it is on the hour. Let's get started with this session, which, as you know, is all about how do we avoid our services being seen as a commodity. So for those of you that are brand new, never been to these sessions before, we run this once a month, live stream it to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and what we do is I teach for 30 minutes of teaching. The sessions are exactly 60. We finish on the hour. I teach for 30 minutes and then I answer your questions. But the topics every month are chosen by you. So in about 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to run a poll so that you can choose what you want me to teach you next month in February. I have 5 choices for you as usual. So you always, when you come along to these live sessions, you get to choose and vote for what you would like me to teach you next. So of course, this topic was the one that you all voted for last time, which I think was early December, but because of Christmas, it seems so long ago. I can't remember the last session we did. A lot's happened in between. So we'll run the poll in a bit. The other thing that we do, if you're brand new, one of the things that we do is to help make the world a better place. We make a contribution to a project for every person here live. And our project for today, and we do this through the B1G1 organization, our project today is to help people in the border between the Thai-Burma border, where they have lots of problems with trafficking and children being subjected to that. And so one of the projects that's been set up is to provide education to children in that part of the world to help them be more wary and to help tackle this issue of child trafficking, which is a terrible thing. So for each and every one of you here live, we get the stats at the end of the session, and then Sarah makes a contribution, and we'll each and every one of you we will give a day's worth of education to a family over in the Far East. So thank you for being here live. Thank you for coming to these sessions. It helps make the world a better place. Okay, let's go on to that poll then. So the way it works is, firstly, I have to press the right button. So just bear with me a second while I just remember what I'm doing. So we use Slido for the polls. And so all you need to do is either, if you have a smartphone, you can just hover over that QR code, or you can go to slido.com and then just type in that 6 digits. You don't have to register for Slido. You just simply go to the page and you'll be faced with these options. So you just pick the one that you would like me to teach you next. And we've got quite a mixed bag this time. It's usually mainly pricing topics and a few marketing ones, but we've picked some different ones out this time just to mix it up. So let me know what you would like me to teach you next month in February. Your options are I could teach you a process for getting out of debt fast, a process that you could use personally and help your clients with. We can look at pricing models. We can look at which pricing models are best for different types of services. We could look at how to price tax planning work, if that's something that's important to you. We could look at this whole area of discounting and how to discount the right way. Or we could look at when to offer clients options instead of standard bronze, silver, gold packages. So I can see Sheila's actually put her option into the comments, but you'll need to vote through Slido because we'll look at the numbers in a second through there. So hope that will make sense. You just need to either hover your phone up against the QR code. That's a really simple, quick way of doing it. And then you cast your vote. I can see some of you have voted already. Or you can just go to slido.com and type in 949632. Okay, while you're doing that, a couple more shout outs, because my friend from Houston is here, David Colts. We had a good chat with him just a few days ago, David, which was great fun. So David, I've known for many years. Great to see you here. And then Sheila said, I'd like to learn on how to price tax planning work. So Sheila, hopefully that you are able to get into Slido and cast your vote. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see how the voting is going. Bear with me a second on that. Okay, I can see that. I think there's a fairly clear leader, so I will close the poll in just a few seconds. You've got a few seconds more to vote. Hi there, Russell. Good to see you today. And hi there, Gary from San Francisco. Jeanette is here as well from another person from Saskatchewan, just like Janine. Okay, let's reveal the result. This is exciting. It's always exciting. This is the best bit of the day. So let's go. It looks like what you'd like me to teach, which is something I haven't taught for many years. So I'm going to have to go and dig out my old notes. That'll be fun. It'll give me a project to do over the next few weeks. So you want me to teach you a process for getting out of debt fast, which you can apply to yourself. But of course, also it will be a great process if you want to add value and help your clients who are in that situation. So that's what we'll do. And then for those of you that are brand new, what we then do is the one that gets the second most votes, which which pricing model goes back into the pot for next month, and we'll have 4 different topics. So there is a second option next month to choose that one. Sorry, Sheila, it wasn't tax planning work this time, but it was third, so it'll probably come back sometime soon. Okay, I'm going to, Sarah, I'm going to lock the voting, I think. Let's see if I've done this right. Lock the voting. So that's what we're going to do, how to get out of debt fast. I will tell you in about 30 minutes the date of the next session. So don't worry, we'll give you the date beforehand so you can block it out in your calendar if that's a topic you really want to learn more about. But let's now get into today. So again, for those of you brand new who've never been before, we've got 30 minutes of content, and then you can ask me questions about anything that you think I can help with. The content for today, anything else about pricing. So this is what you do. If you have a question for me, you put it into the comments wherever you are, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. But please, this is really important because you'll see sometimes there's lots of comments taking place, which is great. Put 2 capital Qs in front. QQ, and perhaps if someone could actually just put in a fake dummy question with QQ in front, because sometimes I get some people say, I don't know what you mean by the QQ. So I can then show it on the screen. It's just putting 2 capital Qs in front. It just, for me, it helps the questions jump out from all of the rest of the comments. And also those squiggly question mark icon things, if you make sure you put that at the end as well. So thank you, Sarah. That's all I mean. Just put a QQ in front, and I will spot the questions. And Dan says riding in the winter. I presume you're talking about cycling. And of course, Dan's a cyclist as well. Yeah, I was out today, Dan. I was out on my best bike. I don't know if you follow me on Strava or not, but the weather's beautiful here in Portugal. So I was on my best bike, and I put on Strava, I put a little comment saying, what am I going to do with all my winter bikes, which I used in the UK? I don't need them here. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into the content. Commodity. How do we avoid the commodity trap? Because the problem is if what we sell is the same as everybody else, then the only thing to differentiate us from everybody else is price. And so we don't want to do that. So we're going to look at, in this session today, how do we get around that? Because one of the big mistakes that that people sometimes make in our profession, and I've seen people posting things in social media channels like Facebook groups saying that things like bookkeeping, payroll are just commodity services. And that's a big mistake. Compliance services, whether it's bookkeeping, whether it's payroll, whatever it might well be, tax returns, compliance services are not a commodity unless you think it is. And what we need to do is banish that commodity thinking. One of the big mistakes that we make in our profession is very simply we price too low. And I see this over and over again. I did it myself when I started my accounting firm way back now in 1996. For the first 3 years, I priced crazy low because I didn't know how to price. I hated it when people said, oh, that's a bit expensive. I didn't like rejections. I didn't like people saying no. And so I gave people a price that I thought would be a number I hoped that they would say yes to. And I then realized over the next few years, I had so many problems in my firm. in the early years, in 96, 97, 98, which I know other people have as well in the profession. I see it all the time. You see, when you price too low, what you find is that obviously that affects your margins. And so you make less money. And what then happens is, to try and make ends meet, to try and make sure we make some decent money, we just work longer hours. And that's a big, it just affects us personally. And eventually there's a risk of burnout. We just work crazy long hours. We don't make enough money because we price too low. And the other big thing, and this was something that I found, again, back in 96, in my early days in my practice, is that when you price low, what happens is you win the wrong types of clients. You will find that you will build up a practice. This is what I did. I built up a practice very quickly full of people who were looking for a cheap accountant. And those were the sorts of clients that, not always, but very often will be the ones that complain the most, moan, whinge, would be the slowest to pay, and the least enjoyable to work with. And yet what happens is, when we keep our prices low, we actually put off the great clients we want, those great business owners that are building great businesses. When they see a cheap accountant or a cheap bookkeeper, they know, as most of us know, there's a correlation between quality and price. And when we see something that's cheap, we assume, okay, it's cheap because it's not very good. And some clients are happy because they just want the cheapest. But the best clients, they want the best. They want the best accountant, the best bookkeeper. So we have to avoid this being too cheap. And one of the reasons that we are too cheap is because we have this commodity thinking. We think that, well, it's just bookkeeping services, it's just payroll, it's tax returns, it's just a commodity. There's a market rate for this. I have to be competitive. I have to be similar price or even cheaper than everybody else. And that's a huge mistake. I've seen over the last 10, 15 years, particularly as technologies has evolved, I've seen that a lot of industries are struggling with prices because of things like, take the graphic design industry just for an example. There is an organization or website called 99 Designs. It's great. I used it many years ago for some graphic design projects. And the way 99 Designs works is that if you want somebody to design a logo, to design your website or something, you go to 99, I think it's 99designs.com. You go there and you post what you want, and then all these designers who see it, they then tell you whether they can do it or not and what price they would charge. So it's encouraging. You can then just pick the cheapest one. And then, of course, you've probably heard of as well, another great website is Fiverr.com, where the idea is everything's $5. It's not, because people can have add-ons and things. But again, it's commoditizing things because people can go online and get the cheapest. And I've seen in our profession, there are some sites where people can go to look for an accountant, a bookkeeper, and then other people on the platform can offer their services and give the price. And it's like an auction. So the business owner can choose the cheapest. And we have to avoid that. We have to stop competing on price. That's crazy. Because just like graphic design, when you've got things like Fiverr, 99 Designs, that's turning it into just a commodity where you just pick the logo design from the one that's offering the cheapest. And we mustn't fall into that trap. You see, a commodity means that everything's the same. And in our profession, we're selling services. What you do is different to everybody else, because a large part of what we do in our profession, yes, we might fill a tax return in, yes, we might do the bookkeeping or sort the payroll out. A lot of it's form-filling, data entry, but there's also a lot of relationship side of it. People are talking to you, they're asking questions, advice, and it's your personality. It's the relationship side of your business that your clients can't get anywhere else. You are naturally different. You cannot be a commodity. But what we can do is we can take this another step further, because the key to avoiding being a commodity is we have to differentiate ourselves. The more we can be different and better than everybody else, then the less that people can compare, and we don't compete on price. And ultimately, with a bit of creativity, and I'm going to share some ideas and some processes soon, with the right creativity, anything can be moved away from being a commodity. Nothing is a commodity with the right thinking. So, for example, one of the most common substances on the planet is water. We might think of water as being a commodity because we can just turn on a tap and it comes out for free. And yet, a few decades ago, some smart people thought, well, what if we take water and we put it in a nice fancy bottle, and then we can charge $1 for a small bottle of water, and people gladly pay for bottles of water, which is something that we can just turn on a tap and get it for free. If we think about what's arguably the ultimate commodity is arguably stocks and shares. Because if you take a share in, let's say, Coca-Cola, then it doesn't matter whether you go to the stock market in New York, whether you go to London, wherever you go in the world to buy a share in Coca-Cola, it's the same price at any point in time. So arguably, stocks and shares are the ultimate commodity. And yet, there are people that have been creative and thought about how they can differentiate that. So there are companies like oneshare.com, and they have an interesting business model. What they do is they sell shares in aspirational companies like Harley-Davidson, Coca-Cola, Disney. And what they do is they take a share and then they sell it as a gift. So they package it, they put a nice frame around it. They have a certificate that goes with it. And you can buy a share in one of those companies, let's say Coca-Cola, and you would pay many, many times the price of what that share would be on the stock exchange. Many times. Because they know that some people want to give it as a gift. Perhaps they want to give it to as a gift to their grandchild, a gift of a share in Disney. And it's in a nice frame to put on the wall. It's got a certificate. They've thought differently about how can you take the ultimate commodity and differentiate it, make it different, add some value. So we can differentiate anything, and that includes our services. So one of the things we have to do is really all this starts with strategy. We have to think about our pricing strategy in our firms. And when we think about price and price strategy, there are really only 3 strategies that we can follow. One of those strategies, and you need to have a price strategy, by the way. Many people don't. When I say, what's your price strategy? A lot of people say, I don't know. I just have a timesheet. I add up the hours and that's my strategy. So that's not really a strategy. We need to have a price strategy. And there are really just 3. One of those is what I call the Me Too strategy. And what that means is, and that's what most of us do, that's what I did back in '96 when I started my accounting firm. The Me Too strategy means that we do the same as everybody else. So this was my approach. I'd go and see a potential client and I'd talk about all the great things I could do to help them. In my case, I came from a tax background. I'd talk about tax planning, tax advisory, how I could help them reduce their tax bills. And then at some point later on in the conversation, they'd ask me for the price, inevitably. And so what I would ask for in the meeting at some point during the course of the conversation, I would ask for a copy of their last set of financial statements. And I'd say to them something like this: so that I can give you some tax planning ideas, could you show me your last set of financial statements? And I would go through that and look for some possible tax planning ideas. But the real reason I asked for the financial statements is because, and I know I'm not alone, perhaps you do this or used to do it, I would go to the back page, because in the UK, the back page is the detailed profit and loss account. And there'd be one line item that I would look for, the line that says audit and accountancy fees. And so I would look at what the previous accountant was charging, and I would give a price similar. In my case, because I was doubly stupid, I would usually go with a price that was less because I wanted to get the work. And yes, I got the work. I built a practice up fast, and I was losing money. So that's the Me Too strategy. We look at what the rest of the profession are doing. And that's a crazy strategy because we know that most accountants and most bookkeepers have no idea how to price. They're way too cheap. And the worst people for us to copy is our competition. But that is one strategy. We could follow that. Let's throw that one away because that's not a good strategy. So what else have we got? Well, the only other two options are one that's called low-cost leadership. And that simply means a strategy of purposely being the cheapest, building a business by being the cheapest. And that is possible to do and be very successful. There are businesses that have done that. In the airline industry in Europe, you have EasyJet and Ryanair have done that very successfully for a few decades now. We see it in the supermarket industry. Again, in Europe, a couple of German companies, Lidl, for example, have been very successful at building a profitable business with low-cost leadership. But to do that successfully, there are things that you must have in place. And one of those is that in any industry, in any marketplace, there's only enough space for 2, possibly 3 people to be successful at low-cost leadership. And the problem that you have is that you can't do it. You can't be the cheapest. You can't be the cheapest bookkeeper or the cheapest accountant and build a successful business, because one of the things you have to have in place is scale, economies of scale. The people that can play that game and win it will be the technology companies offering cheap bookkeeping services, because they're scaled at massive levels. We can't compete with that. So let's not try to compete. So that means the last option for us is what I call high differentiation, high value. If you want to build a more profitable business, then you want to make sure that you focus on, how do I differentiate my business? How do I differentiate my bookkeeping from everybody else? How do I add more value? How do I deliver huge amounts of value? And then you price accordingly. You have premium prices. And what I find over and over again, and this is every industry, in any industry, other than a handful of firms that are successful at low-cost leadership, the most profitable firms in every industry are the ones that follow high differentiation, high value. Starbucks in the coffee industry, Apple in the mobile phone and computer industry. It's the expensive ones that make more money. It's exactly the same in our profession. We see the people that have really successful, profitable accounting and bookkeeping firms are doing it by focusing on being different and being better and charging higher prices and purposely being the most expensive. So our key is, let's stop competing on price and trying to be the cheapest, and let's break this commodity trap by thinking about our core compliance services and asking the question, how can we create more value? How can we make what we do more valuable than anybody else? And there are 3 aspects to this that you need to think about. The first one is you need to be thinking about, how can you create more tangible value or tangible benefits? In other words, what I mean by that is, whatever service you're thinking about, I'm going to use bookkeeping as the example, but it's the same with tax returns, payroll, any of your compliance services. What more can you add on to the service? What more can you do to create more value? For example, are there additional reports that you could create? You could create, for example, if it's bookkeeping, it may be that once a month or once a quarter, you create a report that might have some analysis of their numbers, perhaps some ratios, perhaps some trends, perhaps some benchmarking, things that would give some value, help the client to understand the state of their business. So additional reports is a great example. Think about what reports you could create for your service that adds more value, that helps the client understand their business better. Ultimately, what you want to do with creating more value, tangible benefits, is you need to better understand what is the real problem the client has. So if you've got someone comes to you and they want you to sort out the bookkeeping, We need to ask questions to find out, well, why? We want to find out what's the underlying reason. What's the real reason they're coming to you now? Why now? Why now have they decided to bring on board a bookkeeper? And it could be that they're just spending too much time with paperwork. And so what they really want is you to save them time. So if that's what you uncover, ask yourself the question, yes, I can do the bookkeeping, but what more could I do to help them save even more time? What other processes could I put in place in their business? Are there any other apps that I could install for them that will help them save time? Are there any other systems, processes that I can do? So the more we understand what is the real problem that they've got, or problems, then we can ask ourselves, how can we better solve that problem? Yes, they've asked for bookkeeping, but what else could we do? And that helps us to build up more tangible benefits, to build a bigger package of stuff, a more valuable package, which people will then be happily pay more for, because that's different to anybody else, what anybody else is offering. That's the first area you want to think about, the tangible benefits. What more stuff can you do for the client? Okay, the next thing to think about, number 2, is the tangible benefits are very often the first thing that we think about, because they're usually easy things like additional reports, extra meetings, giving them access to an app, for example. But even more powerful are the intangible benefits. So when we think about how we add value to something, we can think about how do we make the thing, bookkeeping, more valuable. But the intangible benefits is the way that you deliver it. It's the service experience. It's the wrapper that sits around what you do. Yes, the bookkeeping is you do something, but it's how you do it. The intangible stuff that's really important. And arguably, it's the intangible stuff that's the most important, because it impacts on people's emotions. So, for example, with the bookkeeping, let's say one of the things you do is you reconcile things. You reconcile bank accounts, for example. And bookkeepers and accountants, we are very detailed, and we want to make everything balanced to the penny. I remember years ago when I started in the profession, before the days of cloud accounting, back in the 1990s, it was actually 1988. That's how old I am. Back in 1988, I would have clients that we had what we called them incomplete records. That was where a client had an incomplete cash book and they brought in a bag full of receipts and bank statements and so on. And when I started in the profession back in 88, 89, one of my first jobs was to then do the bank reconciliation. And because of the nature of incomplete records, it was almost impossible to balance it to the penny. But we always tried. It was one of those things, if you get it to balance the penny, that would be amazing. And so for us, we feel that's really important, because it's the technical side of what we do. But ultimately, if you did a bank reconciliation and there was let's say a $9 difference, and we wrote it off to sundries or miscellaneous, the client doesn't care less, okay? We might, but the client doesn't care less. They don't care about the accuracy of it's got to be right, but does a $9 difference really make a difference? However, if the client needs you to get the bookkeeping up to date because they need it for a meeting with the bank manager they've got on Friday to get some finance, and this is really critical for their business, and you're a day late, wow, will they be angry? So the technical side of what we do, we know it has to be good, but the client often doesn't care. They can't judge the technical side of what we do, but they can judge the experience. So when it comes to the intangible benefits, the things that we want to think about, I'll give you some examples. If you want to create something that's different and better than the other firms, you want to think about the personal service. Think about the whole, the access to you, for example, the accessibility. I said earlier, one of the things that stops what we're doing being a commodity is because we're in this relationship business. And if you are right now a sole practitioner, for example, sometimes sole practitioners or solo practitioners think that they can't charge as much as the large multi-partner firms. And yet, one of the things that clients love about working with the sole practitioner is they get access to the business owner, to you. Whereas if you go and hire KPMG, you'll never speak to the senior partner. And so there's that benefit, that personal experience. There's real value in that. And so we need to make sure that we recognize there's value in that and stop being the cheapest just because we're a solo firm. So think about the personal service. Think about the accessibility. Think about how can you improve the experience. So think about all of the touch points you have with clients. For example, if you have physical meetings and they come in to your reception area for a meeting, how can you make that experience extraordinary? How can you make the experience of when they drive and park in your car park an extraordinary experience? How can you make the greeting they get in reception an extraordinary experience? What can you do when they get taken through to the boardroom or the meeting room where you're sat? What can you do to make the whole experience memorable and extraordinary? Because those are things that people remember. Those are the things that people tell other people about and say, that accountant down the road, they're extraordinary. I had such an amazing meeting with them. They did these amazing things that you absolutely need to go and check them out. When you do amazing stuff, deliver things in an amazing way, people will talk about you. That's the important stuff. So how can you improve the experience? Think about all the touch points in your business. Think about another intangible benefit is, I touched on this earlier, people value speed and timing. They want things done fast, okay? They want things done fast. There's value in that. So think about how can you improve your internal processes so that you can get a tax return done and out the door in 7 days. How can you make everything faster with systems and processes? Because when you do things faster than anybody else, then people value that. People like speed. Think about another intangible benefit is that people see as benefit your brand, your reputation. So how can you improve your reputation? So one of the things I talk a lot about is we need to think about our expert positioning. If we can position ourselves as experts, if we can perhaps write an ebook, perhaps you have a blog post, perhaps you have a YouTube channel where you talk about the thing that you're an expert at, then that's going to raise your personal brand, and your reputation. People will see you as an expert, and the right clients want that. The right clients, the ones that are willing to pay much higher prices, the right clients want the best accountant. They want the best bookkeeper. It's brand and reputation. So how can you improve that? Also, intangible benefits, your expertise, your capabilities, your skills. So have a think. What is it about you, your training, your past experience that gives you some skills in something that most other accountants and bookkeepers don't? And build on that. Focus on having some skills that are different, that differentiate you, that make people see you as being different. So that's the second of the ways to think about adding more value. Number one is let's think about how we can better solve their real problems and add tangible benefits. Number two, let's think about different ways that we can improve the intangible benefits, the whole experience. And then number three, the third area is all about perceptions. Because it's not necessarily what you do that's different, the extra tangible benefits and the intangible benefits, it's the client's perceptions. And a lot of that is down to how we communicate things. The words that we use on our website, the way that our websites look, the words that we use can manage the perceptions that we are the best firm. If you've got case studies and videos of clients saying amazing things about you on your website, then people watching those videos are going to think that you are the best. You're doing some extraordinary things. You're different. I mean, it might be that you are no more experienced or qualified than the accountant or the bookkeeper in the next street. But when they go to your website and there's clients saying wonderful things on your website, their perception is that you're different, that you're better. So we have to think about all of the communication, the way we communicate everything in our firms, managers, clients' perceptions. So let's just recap quickly. What we have to do is make sure that we never, ever, ever compete on price. We cannot play that game and win it. We mustn't think of our core products, particularly the compliance services, as being commodities. You are not selling commodities. Everything you do can be differentiated and be different to everybody else. It just takes some creativity of thinking, what can we do to create more value, to add value, to communicate that value? And when we do that, what we find is that the right clients, the clients you want, the right clients, they will gladly pay more money. They'll gladly pay more money when they get more and they understand they get more because you're communicating the benefits. And so we have to make sure that we tell our clients about everything that we do for them, why we do it, and most important, how they benefit. What's the pain, the problems that we're taking away? When you do that really, really well, you can charge much higher prices and people will still choose you because they see you as being different to the other firms. Okay, that's our session for this month. So I have seen some comments coming through in the chat box, which I'll look at in a bit. We'll look and we'll answer a few questions as well. And so please, if you do have questions, do stick them into, I can't see many at the moment, but put QQ in front. So what questions do you have for me? Let me know. Think about those questions. We have just over 20 minutes. If we run out of questions, we'll finish early. We've never done that before. So let me know what your questions are. Before we do that, I have two announcements. So announcement number one is, thank you, Lisa, for that comment. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa says, please give thumbs up if you like this webinar. Yes, thank you, Lisa. If you found that valuable, if you've got something out of it, then if you just hit the like button or whatever it is, wherever you're on LinkedIn, Facebook or YouTube. I appreciate feedback. So thank you, Lisa, for that. Where was I? Yes. So next month, you want me to teach you a process for how to get out of debt that either you can use or you could teach your clients to add value to them where they're having problems with debt. That's next month. So when is that? I actually have no idea. I did write it down. Just bear with me a second. We are live. These things happen. Yes, next session is February the 15th. So put that in your calendar if that's a topic you want to come along to see. February the 15th. If you are brand new, these sessions are always the same time. So whatever time this one started, it's the same time, February the 15th. And we always start a little bit early. So you can come along, we can have a little bit of chat via the comments, the chat box. So that's the next session, 15th. And the other announcement for you is I said to you at the start, if you were here at the start, that we're excited about 2022. We've got some big plans in place. One of them, and here's the first big thing we're doing this year, is in next month, we're running an online conference. And the conference is called the Profitable Bookkeeping Conference. The whole theme of it is how to provide, and this is for both accountants who do bookkeeping, accountants and obviously bookkeepers. The whole theme of the conference is all about how can you make a bookkeeping service much more profitable. And it's an online conference. I will be running 3 sessions. It takes place Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th of February. I will be doing a keynote. It's all online. I will be teaching you how to price bookkeeping services. If you've been to one of my previous pricing bookkeeping masterclasses, it's essentially a lot of that content. So I'll be teaching pricing, how to price bookkeeping services. But we have some other great speakers who will also be teaching how to make bookkeeping a profitable service. We have wonderful people like Teresa Slack, Jessica Fox, Kim Lafayette. These are three bookkeepers doing this stuff in practice and building extraordinary firms. We have Michael Palmer of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast, who's got huge amounts of experience from working with hundreds of bookkeeping firms over many, many years. And he'll be sharing his insights into how to build a more profitable bookkeeping service offering. And many, many more things. I don't want to go through it now because what we'll do in a second is we'll put a link into the comments box. But here's the really important thing. If you are a member of my Value Pricing Academy or the Bookkeepers Pricing Academy, then ignore the link you're going to get because you get a ticket as part of the Academy membership. And an email's coming out to all my Academy members, people like Lisa and Dave Lease. You'll get an email, I think, tomorrow, so you can grab your ticket as being part of the Academy. But if you're not in the Academy, please don't worry because I actually have something very special for you. The ticket price for this conference, and it's going to take place online, 3 days. There's a huge amount of value. You're going to learn so much. We've kept the ticket price to just $100. But not only that, what we're going to do, if you register your ticket today, we're going to put in the comments box a coupon code that will give you 80% off the price. So this is an early bird offer. You can register your place at the conference for just $20. I mean, it's insane. The number of speakers we've got teaching you some amazing stuff. And yeah, just $20. So what Sarah's going to do is put a link in the chat box, wherever you are, whether you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. She'll put a link to go to and a coupon code. So make sure you grab that coupon code because you'll then want to put that in when you get to the checkout to get the 80% off. So I think she's certainly done that in Facebook. There's the link, there's the coupon code. She's put it into Facebook as well, and hopefully LinkedIn as well. It'll appear there as well. Okay, so that's one of the things we're doing this year, which we're really looking forward to. That's next month. Okay, let's get into the questions then. So let me just bear with me a second. I have to scroll back to where we got to, and there's a few people here who I have not given a shout out to. So Zippy from South Africa. Did I pronounce that right? I know I've had this conversation with you before. Is it a silent T? We have Derek. And Derek says, is this applicable on Upwork? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. I think I'm going to guess what you mean is Upwork's a site for contractors, anybody who wants to offer their services, like graphic designers. But I know some bookkeepers and some accountants are on Upwork offering their services there. And I'm not going to say don't do that if it works for you, if you offer your services on Upwork and it works. But I think the problem with those sites is people tend to shop around for the cheapest. And even if you do offer your services on a site, on a platform like Upwork, think about all the things we talked about today. Don't try to be the cheapest. Instead, think about how you can use the language, the words, to position yourself as being different and better than everybody else. We have Enley here. Hi there. Great to see you. Jen, this is quite a long one, so just bear me a second. Jen said, the wage survey that comes out is such an eye-opener. I share it every time I see someone post on social media saying they are a bookkeeper and are going to charge $15 to $30 an hour. As some of you know, we did a big survey back in the summer of 2019 to see how much accountants and bookkeepers charge for bookkeeping services. And I was staggered at how cheap some people were. It was extraordinary. Hi there, Ashioma. Is that pronounced right? I hope so, from Calgary. Roger Farrell has a question. Roger says, what if it is as simple as a self-assessment return? There's still things that you can do or offer to differentiate it. We just have to use some creativity. So with a self-assessment tax return, for example, it might be that it could be speed. You guarantee that you'll get it done inside 7 working days, 5 working days, or whatever. It could be that as part of the tax turn, you have a meeting or an online meeting where you'll give them some tax advice, and maybe you have some processes, some checklists for giving advice to how they can manage their tax affairs more efficiently or reduce their tax bills. It might be that one of the things you do is you offer to let everybody to send everybody. I know we're in a digital world, but some people like bits of paper, so it may be that you offer to, if they want, you let them have a nicely bound copy of the tax return that they can keep. Personally, I wouldn't want that. I have a paperless office, but some people like physical stuff. Just be creative and think about. And also, you could ask your clients. Just ask them, what would make this more valuable to you? What sort of things could we do that you would really value? So I hope that helps, Roger. There are probably lots of things that you can do. Just be creative. I'm not sure what Dean's comment was, so I'll pass that. Zippy says, what does he say? How do we educate the public that pricing is not competitive? Or do we not worry about the clients looking for the cheapest bookkeeper accountant? You don't worry about the clients looking for the cheapest. There will always be, in any marketplace, there will be people that want the cheapest. And that's fine, because there is plenty of business out there. For example, if you take Apple, I bought this for about a year ago. This is the latest, or it was the latest iPhone a year ago. I think I paid something like 1,200 euros for this. So we're in Portugal, so it's euros. We paid 1,200 euro. I paid 1,200 euros for this. I know that I could probably get for 10%, for 120 euros, I could perhaps get a phone from Motorola or something. I mean, I have no idea who sells phones now, because I buy Apple stuff. There are people who will want to buy a phone that's less than $100. Apple knows that's not their market. They don't try to market to those people. One of the things you might notice about Apple, have you ever seen them do a discount or a sale? They don't, because they know the value of what they do, and they position the value, and they charge premium prices, and they don't care. They don't have 100% of the marketplace, because the people they don't have is not their ideal customer. So Zippy, I hope that makes sense. Our goal is not to win every client. That's what I thought the goal was back in 1996. I was cheap because I wanted to win as many clients as possible. And then after 3 years of doing that, I realized I was working crazy long hours and not making enough money. And I then, in 99, started to change my focus entirely, put my price up significantly over the next few years. And I found a few years later, I reduced the number of my clients from at one point just over 200 to 130 clients. And they all paid a lot more money. And I made a lot more money and worked less hours. We have to not try to win all the business. I don't know if that answered that question. I sometimes ramble, as some of you know. I hope that helped you. Right. Interesting comment from Lisa, referring back to Roger earlier. And Lisa's part of my academy and doing some great things with value pricing. So I love the fact you spotted that opportunity to help the client and then charged a much higher price. Okay. Karen says, what does she say? How can I make my Zoom meetings monthly, quarterly with my clients different? Okay, that's an interesting question, Karen. I don't know if I'm not sure if you're in my online live academy. I have another academy called the Online Live Academy, which members of the Value Price Academy get access to. And one of the things I teach in that is given that we now have a world where we are increasingly talking to people online, how can we differentiate ourselves? How can we come across as being more professional? Because when we communicate to people via a webcam, via a Zoom call, it's harder than the old-fashioned meeting with people. When you meet somebody, we're more relaxed. We can see the client's body language. We can see them, and so we've grown up with physical meetings. But now we're in this world where we're having virtual meetings, and it requires some different skills, some different ways of communicating. And most accountants and bookkeepers are not particularly good because they've never been trained, not particularly good on their Zoom meetings. So if you want to come across as being different and better, Karen, two things to focus on. Number one, build up your skills of communication so you come across more confident on a webcam. And secondly, make your Zoom meetings look more professional. So there's something I teach called, where it's called the power of context. It's based on some price psychology and behavioral economics, but essentially what it means is that people are willing to pay higher prices when based on the context in which they buy. So, for example, if you are having a physical meeting with a potential client and your meeting is in a meeting room where wallpaper's hanging off the walls, you've got files everywhere, it's a complete mess. The floors, someone's spilt hot chocolate all over the carpet, it's a mess. Then the client that you meet in that environment is going to form an opinion of the sort of accountant or bookkeeper you are, and will be expecting to pay a much lower price. If instead you have a meeting in a beautiful boardroom and you present data and stuff on a great big screen or flat screen TV, and you serve them amazing tea and coffee in exquisite cups that look beautiful, then they'll have a very different expectation of it'll influence their perception of your quality, and they'll be willing to pay a higher price. It's called the power of context. And we can take that exact same thinking and apply it to our online meetings. So how can you make your online meetings just come across more professional? Because the more professional you are on your online Zoom meetings, the more people will then perceive and think, well, you're a very professional firm. You must be good at what you do. You're the sort of person I want. And so those of you that are in the Online Live Academy know that I hate green screen, for example. Green screen is tacky. If I had a green screen right now, every time I move a little bit, there's a little halo around you, and sometimes things like your ears disappear. Green screen is terrible, and everyone's using green screen because it's gimmicky. It's a bit like, if you're as old as me, perhaps you can remember when Microsoft first brought out clip art, and everybody was using clip art because they thought it was cool. And now when you look at it, you think that is just so tacky. And so let's stop doing what everyone else is doing. Just because Zoom think it's great to have bunny ears, it's not good to have bunny ears. It's not good to have the Eiffel Tower in the background. Instead, let's make sure that we've got a professional environment. We've got good audio, a good microphone. We've got good lighting. We've got a nice, professional, clean background. We come across really well. So I hope that helped, Karen, when you said, how can you make your Zoom meetings different? Okay, let's move on. Well, let's move on. I know Roger said, well done. I think that was to Lisa. Let's see. How we do have time? We've got 7 minutes, by the way. Okay, there's still lots of questions. There's a few comments from people like Terence, but they're not questions, so I'm just looking for the questions, so forgive me. Thank you for that. Zippy. Zippy. Is that right? I hope it is. Ashioma says, wow, thank you for the coupon code. I'm going to register immediately after this live. Brilliant. We've only just literally gone live with the whole registration page, so we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed that everything works smoothly for you. If you have any challenges, reach out to Sarah. We'll fix it. We've just literally gone live with opening up the conference. Right, Jen's got a question. Jen says, do you suggest giving a date that a proposal is only good for? If a client comes back a month after you've given them the proposal, do you hold the price? That's a really good question, Jen. My advice is absolutely you give them a date. And I would keep it to quite a short date. Some people go for 30 days. I think 7 days is sufficient, because you want people to take when you meet with somebody and you impress them, and if they've got to a stage where you're giving a proposal, hopefully you've got an agreement in principle, they've agreed to what you're going to do, the proposal is just to confirm it all. then at that point, they are, that's the point they're most enthusiastic about working with you. But if they go back and have 2 or 3 weeks to think about it, they might start thinking, they might, 3 weeks later, forget about how much they gelled with you and loved your enthusiasm, your passion. 3 weeks later, that's all gone cold, and perhaps in the meantime, they come across somebody else's website. So you want to get them while they're enthusiastic to sign as quick as possible. And so one of the ways is to put a deadline date on the proposal, which you should, because you should be, as those of you in the academy know, you should be reviewing your prices frequently. And so you shouldn't hold a proposal at the same price for an extended period of time. Okay, let's move on we've got time for, I think, 1 or 2 more questions. There's lots of comments, lots of great comments. Eric, thank you for that feedback. Lots of questions about this survey of hourly rates and stuff, which obviously got people fascinated. Dan says, does it mean I need to clean your office up? Absolutely, Dan. You want a clean office. Your office wants to look professional. Roger suggests hire a cleaner. Good idea. Yep. Karen says she has a stack of books in the background. Yeah, tidy those up. I remember. When was it? When I was running my accounting firm, this was about 97, 98. I remember looking for a firm of lawyers that I could partner with so you could refer each other. And someone recommended a lawyer to me, and I went and met him. And he also I think had a motorbike, and the officers were the most disgusting officers I've ever seen. I walked in. I had the meeting with him. He had his motorbike leathers on, but his desk was piled high with files from clients. And I thought, for starters, I was thinking, isn't there a client confidentiality issue here? There's all these client files sat around it, but it was a complete mess. And I just had this impression that this is not a lawyer that I'd want to work with. And I did find out over time that he was crazy cheap. And he had some terrible clients, and that was it made sense to me because that was the impression I got from his meeting room. Okay, there's lots of comments. I can't see any more questions. We've only got 2 minutes left anyway. I don't think there's any more questions, but if one comes in, I might get a quick one in. So I'm just going to read some of the comments. So there's a few people talking about. Oh, thank you, Dan. Dan confirms that registration was a breeze. Sheila's talking about getting a room divider to put behind the desk. My office is sharing a large room with other purposes. Yeah, there's a lot of great things that you can, easy ways to have a nice background. I have a few people in the online live academy, like I think it's Sarah Kelly jokingly says she works in it sounds like it's a broom cupboard or something. It's a really small space, but she has this lovely background. And all I've got is a paper roll. It's just a roll of paper, photographic paper, just pulled down. It's really simple to get a nice background if you have a messy office. And Lisa says, I have the same problem. I work from home and my office is in the living room. If you've got a nice living room, I mean, sometimes you can make your living space look really nice in a video, particularly if you get a really good quality. I'm using a camera, which, as you can probably see, blurs the background out a bit, and that then makes it less distracting, so the focus is more on you. Roger says, we just ordered a pull-up 2-meter wide screen with logo, etc., for people to be able to put up behind them when on Zoom. Awesome, great. Lynn just asked the question, Roger, where did you order your screen from? Okay, I make it on the hour. We finish these sessions exactly on the 60 minutes. So thank you for all the great questions. Thank you for everybody that's clicked the like button. I can see quite a few have done that on YouTube. There's thumbs up. So if you enjoyed the session, please just let me know with a comment or the like button. And so next session is the 15th of February, if you remember, 15th of February, and I will hopefully see you there. So for those of you that are brand new, never been before, I always play out with some music just so I can read the comments. So I will see you all very soon. Thank you, Lisa, for that bit of feedback.